probably thought all roosters looked the same, with their brown, orangey feathers and big old red face. You'd be very wrong. This is Lophora nycthamira, also known as the silver pheasant. And man, is he pretty or what? The silver pheasant is native to the mountain forests of Southeast Asia and China, and has a whopping 15 subspecies that can be found all over that region. The rooster typically has a long white patterned tail and black crest on the ground. They show during the mating season so you can see what they cock advance or they're only going to get worse. The silver pheasant is a beautiful bird and about as far from your conventional rooster appearance as you could probably get. Well, maybe not. We still have a lot to get to, but be honest. Would you have thought this was a rooster? I think not. Before we go, Brahma is the creator god in Hinduism. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about chickens and roosters. And the Brahma is a pretty good rooster in its own right. Sure, it's not a god, but can you name me one chicken that turned out to be a god? Comments down below, please. The Brahma is a breed of chicken that was developed in the from Shanghai. But while the origin of the bird may be somewhat controversial, we know for a fact that this bird was actually the most popular American meat breed from the 1950s until 1930. But while their meat may have somewhat lost its appeal with the public, they're still a popular breed of chicken for farmers. The Brahma comes in 3 colors, light, dark, and buff. And all 3 of those look good on the rooster. Yeah, it's a fashion show now. What about it? While they're obviously not as popular as they were in their heyday, the Brahma is still celebrated as a great chicken. Okay, that's maybe one of the strangest sentences I've ever said. Can you imagine giving the British Queen a chicken? Well, that apparently is what Captain Edward Belcher did when he brought the original Cochinians over to England from a French colony in Vietnam. And apparently that ballsy move paid off. Queen Victoria loved her Cochinian chickens. That's a little tip for anybody who meets a British monarch in the future. According to records, Queen Victoria's love for these chickens sparked a trend in Victorian England. After mating closure came out, Victorians throughout England caught hen fever, which only served to fuel the development of exotic fowl like the Brahma and the Cochinian. Over time, pleasing, their use apparently began to suffer. But that's a story. Cochin rooster looks pretty much exactly as you'd expect from a typical rooster, and thankfully the birds are still as popular today as they were in Queen Victoria's day, albeit with less hen fever. Most modern Cochinians are bred for exhibition and ornamental purposes, making the rooster a popular addition. All hail the Queen's rooster. And you may be somewhat alarmed. Not only does it not really resemble a chicken, but the ones with black feathers look downright frightening. Thankfully, these birds are not quite as scary as they may appear at first glance. I think the Polish chicken's origins are a mystery, but it seems the oldest records of their existence take them back to the Netherlands. But who cares about history when they look like this? The Polish chicken's appearance is mostly fascinating due to that unique crest covering their whole head. This crest can severely impede their vision, making them more likely to grow frightened and lash out at unsuspecting humans. Today, the Polish rooster is mostly bred as a showbird for obvious reasons. They just look so dang cool with that crest. While nobody fully understands where the chickens came from or why it's named that, the Polish chicken is one of the more popular showbirds. Obviously, that's down to its unparalleled appearance, making it stand out against more conventional roosters. I guess being different really does have its benefits, at least in the world of chickens. Number or jaguar with a chicken, it would be absolute carnage. But if you somehow managed to succeed against all the odds, you'd probably end up with the Barbu Diakal, a rooster that has some stripy, spotty likenesses to said big cats. Of course, a breed of bearded bantam chickens, widely considered one of the calmest and friendliest breeds across the chicken spectrum. While their history is a little murky, it's considered to be critically endangered today, despite being the third most popular and show chickens. And you can see why. I mean, just look at that pattern. But Indonesia's ayam samani is definitely one of them. This bird is a highly common breed, notable for being nearly entirely black, from head to internal organs to feet. The reason for this unconventional appearance comes down to genetics, namely one dominant gene that causes a kind of hyperpigmentation that leads the bird to be almost entirely black. Seriously, even their meat and their bones are black. But if that's not unique enough for you, we could also discuss that these birds have been used on the island of Java since the 12th century, where Congolese Belgian philanthropist Jean Kiala keeps 250 breeding pairs for a Kenyan breeding program. So I do one guess why this chicken is called the rose comb. If you said it's because their distinctive comb looks like a rose petal, you'd be right. If you said anything else, bad luck, but thank you for playing at least. There is no prize for the winners except my undying admiration, which is absolutely worthless. The rose comb is one of the oldest and most popular bantam breeds in the world, and is still considered one of the best ornamental show chickens you can find. The rooster isn't suited to meat production and obviously can't lay eggs, making it perfectly suited time to time, but that's to be expected when it comes to numbers. They look ridiculous, but isn't that what you're here for? You want to see some funky looking chickens, right? Well, you can't get much more funkier than this Chewbacca polar bear looking little thing. This is maybe the cuddliest rooster you've ever seen. I'll call him Duck. Hey Doug, the Silkie is one of the most popular pet chickens in the world for obvious reasons. They're gentle, they're cuddly, they slightly resemble the people in costumes you see at places like Disneyland. Basically, you want from a pet. Now, silky roosters actually have an even more unique appearance, having long pointed feathers as well as the fuzzy ones. This makes them even more unusual to look at, which is great news for us because, well, look at the title here, guys. Silkies are among the most unusual birds, period. There's nothing more to that sentence. But if you're just looking at roosters on their own terms, they have to be close to the top of the list in terms of pure uniqueness. No other chicken on the planet looks quite like this. Yeti, Chewbacca, problem solved. Into birds, you will be amazed by this next rooster. I can promise you. The golden pheasant is not just a bird, it's a work of art that's been brought to life. Get a load of this guy. The golden pheasant rooster is one of the most visually stunning birds on our list. A bright, colorful, showy animal native to mountain forests in China, they can also be found everywhere from the United States to Belgium and Australia. I mean, really, they're nowhere near endangered, which is a relief because look at how beautiful these guys are. When these roosters are put on a display, they spread their deep orange cape, revealing a black and orange fan that is truly incredible to witness. Basically, these roosters are just a burst of refreshing color that you will never be able to forget. Their nature is one of the most unmistakable of all chickens. It is, after all, beautiful to look at. You'll never see another like it. So you should expect me to walk back on that statement pretty quick. Now, if the animal can live up to the many expectations I have. Now, obviously, we'll just sidestep that whole topic. In the United States, popular black color. Giving it a striking contrast with its red comb and beard, but these incredible animals have a whole range of colors in other countries, including blue, white, puff, golden, buff, splash, and wheaten laced. And no, those last three were not made up. Trust me, I wish I had invented the color splash. The Australorp is not exactly a famous rooster. I'd be surprised if more than a handful of people had even heard of one, let alone seen it with their own eyes. All that said, it does sound cool, it does look roosters can't lay eggs yet, I still think it's pretty dope. Number 5. Frizzled rooster from Asia, where they have been reported as far back as the 18th century. A genetic trait useful for any practical purpose and instead tend to be prioritized for shows or display purposes. Because, let's be honest, if you're planning on attending a competitive chicken show, you're going to want to see a fluffy chicken. I mean, that's not even a right? Now, a chicken, and it's a pretty fascinating one. And I'm not just saying that to avoid becoming the next victim of whatever a Sicilian buttercup may be. The Sicilian buttercup. By now, you probably have a good idea of how many kinds of roosters there are all around the world. Well, here's another one. The asil or asil chicken, native to India, but familiar to countries the world over. They're scary, not used not for food purposes, but for illegal and inhuman acts of cockfighting. They happen to fight, with most showing a willingness to fight to the death. Kind of story you want to hear with a name like that. In actuality, it's just a rooster. The Kosovo long crawler was developed in 40 seconds. The records show some birds stretching their crow to around a minute or more. The Japanese have always been rightfully proud of their culture and history, and naturally they're proud of their animals too. The Onagadori is a historic breed of chicken in Japan that, in 1952, was designated a Japanese national natural treasure. Can't get much more beloved than that. The Onagadori was first bred in the 17th century and is believed to be derived from other long-tailed Japanese bird breeds, hence that stunningly long tail. The tail typically